Hi, I'm Dr. Felix Rivera. I'm a neurologist based in Texas with over 20 years of clinical experience. I currently work as a 𝗕𝗲𝘆𝘀𝗵𝘆hospitalist, providing acute neurological care via telemedicine across the US. And I'm also a consultant and advisor for health tech companies. I'm leading together with the amazing Byte Labs team to launch in the US this 8-week Health Tech and Innovation Fellowship in May, which helps physicians and clinicians become health tech innovators. Like Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Now, I love this quote because it emphasizes the role we play as creators of our destiny. And in today's conversation, we will explore how we, as physicians, can start expanding our careers beyond clinical medicine and into consulting, innovation, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to leave clinical medicine. It doesn't mean you have to leave the hospital or the office. It just means that you can start taking steps, learn how you can use your clinical background to help shape the future of care while creating new opportunities for growth and fulfillment. We're here to inspire, offer practical advice, and show you it is possible and it is needed. So we do need physicians to be part and lead the way of this amazing healthcare transformation. So that is why today we're joined by two amazing physicians. First, I have Dr. Jennifer Thomas. She's a seasoned physician executive with over 15 years experience leading strategic growth and innovation in healthcare. She's earned her MBA in MIT and currently serves as Vice Chair of Integration and Innovation at Northwestern Medical Hospitals. She's also someone I consider a friend and a mentor who has always been very generous with her time, and I've learned a lot from her. We also have Dr. Harvey Castro, Dr. GPT, a trailblazer in AI, digital health, and entrepreneurship, who advises organizations including the Texas Medical Association, Phantom Space, and Singapore's Health Regulatory Panel. He's a TEDx speaker, a trusted voice in how physicians can shape the future of innovation, and has been a great inspiration to me to the amazing things physicians can and do beyond the clinic. Now, I would like to first thank you both for saying yes to participating in this conversation. I know everybody's busy, and I know taking this little time takes a lot of effort, but I think it is important for all of us to be able to share our experiences so maybe we can motivate others to join in this journey. Now, Jennifer, could you share what motivated you to become a doctor? How your career evolved beyond the clinic and what you're working on now?
Sure. I mean, honestly, my story went back to childhood. As it is with many people, you have a childhood illness, you're cured by a physician. And for me, it was actually spinal meningitis. Uh, and I think my pediatrician at the time was very astute, recognized it. But I grew up hearing about you were ill and your doctor saved you. And so since then, probably in kindergarten, I just said I was going to be a doctor. Now, what type? Those nuances I was not aware of, but I just knew I was going to be a doctor. And then, of course, I went to med school, did residency and fellowship, and then went into practice. And probably after maybe 5 years of clinical practice, I kind of started looking around and saying, okay, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable doing what I'm doing now, but what else is there? Like, what else can I learn? And that's when I started to delve into like leadership and figuring out how things on the other side actually worked, like the actual business of medicine, because I understood how I had delivered care, but there was this entire world that I never learned about in residency or med school, and it was functioning. And from there, I kind of moved on up and took additional leadership roles until eventually I was president and CEO of a large multi-specialty group and really had to do a deep dive into how the business of medicine works. And then kind of transition to how does innovation work in medicine, right? We don't have the move fast and break things mentality because people actually die. And so that's kind of how I made my mental journey throughout just becoming a clinician, understanding how to practice medicine, understanding how to lead medicine, and understanding the business of medicine. And so I kind of came back full circle and working now in innovation as well as the business side of medicine.
Amazing. I think one of the brave steps that I think you took was to start learning beyond, so looking at business, which is an area that us as physicians, were none of us are taught, right? How to manage money, how to be able to recognize what the needs are inside business, because really it is a business where we're helping others. But the fact is that if that business isn't run adequately, we run out of money, we make bad decisions, and we affect not only our business, but even more importantly, we help the care from each patient that we're seeing. So I do think that that's part of, at least that's been part of my journey as well, learning how to understand the ins and outs of medicine. And although it's very complex, I think it's very needed for physicians to learn more. And not only physicians, I tell my kids as well, it's important to learn to manage money, to learn what the business is behind what we're doing, because I think that makes us a lot more effective in what we do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's complex purposely, right? I mean, we do very complex things that have really, really high risk, but the back end of it is complex purposely for a multitude of reasons. But we'll say that none of them are nefarious. I think that we, especially training in the US, we use the excuse of there's a lot to learn, so you can't know about the business side. We also use the excuse of you're doing this role because it's your passion, you're altruistic, it's what you are, like, it's like your purpose. And I think during COVID, a lot of people, like clinicians as well as just patients, recognized, hey, there's a little bit of mud in this water. There's a lot of things that people are sacrificing. And as we've seen over the past, let's say, year or two, the tide is changing. People aren't as grateful. There's a lot more stress. There's a lot more discussion about cost of care and what should we do, and limiting care. And I think conversations are changing, and which is, I'm happy we're talking about innovation, because if the conversations are changing, we have to change. And in medicine, we're one of the slowest to change. So thank you very much for bringing this topic up and inviting me, because this is what we need to be talking about.
It's so exciting to be talking about this, because usually doctors will be joining together to share about a very complex case, but then everything else is just down the drain. A good friend of mine unfortunately lost all of his practice to him not knowing the business, and somebody else that he trusted on taking advantage of that, because he was just going there to see patients, 20, 30 patients every single day. And he's a fantastic doctor. He's a dear friend of mine, but he got into so much problems with that. Now, Harvey, I wanted to going to you. So same thing as for Jennifer, what motivated you to become a doctor? I know we all have, that special reason, but what motivated you to become a doctor? How did your, clinical medicine evolve into what you're doing right now? And if you can share more about what you're doing in innovation and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So it all comes down to this little scar right here. When I was a teenager, like every boy back then, they wanted to be Michael Jordan, and I wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to jump on signs, hit them, and like practice jumping. And on one of those jumps on a parking sign, I didn't see there was a wedge sticking out, and it slashed my hand open, and I was gushing blood and whatnot. I was about 11 years old-ish, and I ended up in the emergency room, and I waited for like 12 hours. And then when the doctor saw me, he says, "You waited too long," even though I was in his waiting room for 12 hours, and said, "We cannot give you an anesthetic. We have to sew you up without it." And I thought, oh my God. And that memory literally scarred me. And I thought, you know what? When I become an adult, I'm going to be this amazing doctor. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to give the best healthcare. And so I became a doctor. Fast forward, I've always been this person, like, how can I create using my MD, and how can I create better healthcare? And so, in med school, I wrote books, and I was selling them to the med students. In residency, I created a heart vitamin formula, took it national, and sold it all over the world. It was this heart formulation that I made, and then I had a cardiologist bless it, and was able to create the product and sell it. And then this thing called an iPhone came out, and I was coding a patient, and I thought, how can I make this particular situation better? I told the nurse, let's start this IV drip. And she's like, 1 second, doc. Went and got a textbook, got a calculator, started calculating. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, oh my God, we really need to get going. And so I created this app that you tap 3 times, boom, there's your dose. That thing went viral. That was when the first iPhone came out. Fast forward, I did another 40 apps. And then working in the emergency room, I wasn't happy with the care that was there. And I know my business partners thought I was crazy. I was owner of the group, and I had ownership in the hospital and the ERs and whatnot. And I came to the owner and said, "Here are my shares. I'm not happy I'm out. And the guy thought I was crazy. He's like, Harvey, you're leaving millions of dollars on the table. We, in the next 48 months or so, we will sell, and it will be for a lot. It may be sooner. I was like, no, I'm out. And I was able to start freestanding ERs. I did about 20 of those. Of those, I put 8 in a cluster. I made my own brand, made my own marketing, billing, staffing, had my own hospital, urgent cares, and whatnot. And then I sold it. And then this thing called ChatGPT in 22 became known to the world. And I thought, you know what? This thing can change healthcare. And so I wrote the first book on how to use ChatGPT in healthcare and launched it. And then, so now to answer your question, it's been this serial entrepreneur having fun creating. And then now I have my own AI company. I'm able to create my own AI products. I white label them, sell them to hospital systems, or different companies are like, hey, Harvey, we really want X. And so then I build it for them and then sell it. Then the second thing I'm really enjoying is I'm being able to be a speaker around the world. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be in Germany. Later this year, I'll be in Dubai, I'll be in Denmark, and it's just really fun being able to explain how to do this in healthcare. And then the last is like I mentioned, the consulting / creating the product. So that's kind of the entrepreneurship in AI for me.
And Harvey, I want to apologize. I have no idea what happened to my camera. It ran out of battery. I have no idea because it's connected. My goodness. I apologize. So
no worries. It's the AI gods, man.
I mean, the main thing. So I'm truly sorry. I have no idea how this, but let's continue our conversation because really people came here to hear both of you and to hear your story. Now, I wanted to ask you, Jennifer, what do you think? So do you think that expanding beyond the clinical medicine has helped you become a better physician, and has it impacted your personal life too?
Yeah, I would say it's allowed me to become like much more normal, just because as you're going through, so I'm a urologist. So I did about 8 years of clinical training. I went through training before the 80-hour work week. So, I mean, at times it was 110 hours of working. Now that's illegal, but I'm older than I look. So I've been through that process. And by doing things outside of medicine, you kind of get a better balance, right? You see what the rest of the world is doing. You see what people are talking about. You can find out and follow up on world events. Sometimes during training or in medicine, your head is down. You're so focused because every day is so busy. So, I mean, I really started entrepreneurship early. We have on the side, we have Airbnbs. Yes, I am a super host. We also do other real estate. And I mean, I've learned about what everyone calls verticals of truly how to layer. And this is probably exactly what Harvey does, like layer different products on top of each other. So when someone has a need, they can buy the entire stream. This is what health systems do. This is what payers or insurance companies do. So I've learned to think about things in a different way versus the transactional, just delivering care or doing the surgery and then moving on. So I would say that I can't actually say that I'm like normal and well-rounded, but I definitely have different thoughts about how to handle situations or how to look at opportunities. And then I utilize my different networks to figure out the resources that I need to figure out whether this is something that I'm moving forward or not. I don't know, Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like we're blessed. There's not many people with this training. We're blessed to be called doctors. I don't take that lightly. I feel like it's an honor from God that we're able to do that. And so to be able to put that doctor and then the entrepreneurship heart together and be able to look at it from 10,000 feet, like you said, it's giving us a different practice of medicine. I appreciate medicine so much more knowing the internal struggles of a CEO of running a hospital. Until I was in that spot, I had a hard time with that pill, but now seeing it from that angle, and then what you and I can bring to the table is just that understanding from the medicine and the administration, and then putting it together to really create even better services and healthcare for our patients. So I agree. And then from a lifestyle, the older I get, the more I'm like, oh my God, I cannot pull 30-hour shifts. I'm like you, I'm going to age myself. I was one of those people that worked my butt off in residency. And I do remember falling asleep behind the wheel and sort of crazy stuff like that. And so I get it. So yes, I love that now I can do more on the consult side, because if I was still in the front lines working like I used to, I don't know, I would not be a happy camper right
Right.
now.
For me, I think for me, and I was sharing this with my wife yesterday, I think for me, being like doing now health tech consulting and working, I'm still working full time as a physician, but working with companies and learning about the business side, working with them in innovation on, analyzing different products, for example, in my case, in neurology, and seeing all these advances, it's really, really helped me to love again medicine in a different way. Like I feel so energized now thinking about medicine, talking about different features that could be possible, things of how I can help my patients in a different way. That's really helped me appreciate more what I do, and also have like a better outlook of what the future is. There's a lot of changes going on in the world. And I think as physicians, we see technology and we're like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? Like, where is it that I fit in? Is AI going to take over my job? All that stuff. But I think as I learn how to leverage these technologies, and I'm trying to, move forward gradually, it's really opened up possibilities for what I can do as a physician, and I'm able to enjoy it much more than before.
I completely
Uh,
agree.
Now, do you think that Harvey, do you think that their skills, core skills as physicians that we have, that we developed over the years, whether it's leadership, innovation, health tech, teamwork, managing stress, do you think that there are skills that we have that we can leverage, to expanding beyond the clinical career, looking into, positions inside a company, like for Jennifer, inside that amazing corporation, amazing hospitals, or as an entrepreneurs? Are there skills there, do you think, are transferable?
Yes. So one thing that you're going to chuckle is we are all life learners, and we know how our brain works. We know how to make this noggin memorize things, and we're good at problem solving. Those are the core concepts to entrepreneurship. My favorite phrase is, we don't know what we don't know. But if you're a life learner and you're constantly learning and evolving, you are going to beat the competition. You are going to think outside the box. You are going to be that leader. The fact that you got into medical school, I know, isn't an easy feat. You did something, and that something is your secret sauce. And I think that's transferable. One thing I didn't know about myself is having the decision process of quick thinking and, hey, the emergency room, someone just died, we need to do something ASAP. It made me a better leader in the CEO space. I was able to make decisions quickly, taking all that facts. Obviously, I didn't have to do it in seconds, but it made me a better leader. And I really think that skill set transferred. I really think that us having this blessed opportunity to be in the space we are gives us that. With that same said, it's a catch-22. I think some physicians think, oh, if I made it through med school, then I can do X, Y, Z. Not the case. You still have to put in the time and effort and learn, just like you got into med school, just like you got into your residency, just like you got your first practice. It's the same principles. It's just you're not there yet. If you believe in the 10,000 hour rules, maybe you haven't done your 10,000 hours yet. But I think the skills, the structure of a house, those core things are there. You just have to develop that tree and to make it into that amazing big tree.
I
Awesome.
agree. I think one of the skills that I think also we don't recognize as much is our listening skills, right? We're listening not just to hear someone to ask the next question. We're listening to understand. We're listening to put together a plan or a model in order to create change. And I think a lot of times we're used to dealing with situations that don't come in a pretty package or bow, right? So it's just multiple different data points that are coming that aren't in the perfect report that we can analyze and say, this is our next step. And so our brains are really wired to think about things and saying, all right, this is what I'm hearing, and we can try to do this. I think definitely, like as a surgeon, Sometimes you go into a case where it should be textbook, but for whatever reason, the anatomy's different. You have to think quickly on your feet. And I want to say that medicine gives us this like great toolbox, right? We're not going to use all the tools all of the time, but we can build anything with it. And I think we take that to innovation. We take that to business. But like you said, Harvey, you have to put that 10,000 in. It's a different language. It's a different skill set. And I think sometimes as physicians, we're placed on this pedestal of, yes, you're going to lead by authority because you have the authority in this arena. Guess what? In business, that's not us, right? We don't have that ability. So we can lead by influence until we have enough background knowledge to lead by authority again. And so some of us will get, like when you're running a company, you're going to make certain suggestions, but you need to really depend on the people who did the 10,000 hours before, learn from them, be a little bit humble, and then build from there.
Agree.
Oh, thank God.
There we go. The AI gods are smiling at you, Felix.
Oh
You
my
did it.
God! Look at my. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's things that happen, you know. How do you think do you think as physicians we underestimate what we can do? And I know you were talking about, all these transferable skills, but I think there's a lot. I like to work a lot on the mindset, right? On our ability to understand that we can do a lot more beyond what we actually think we can do. So as physicians, do you think that even though we have all this knowledge, all these skills, do you think we underestimate ourselves? Jennifer?
I think we do, and part of it's because we're tired, right? I mean, a hard day of now. We're not doing the same manual labor, right? I'm not digging a ditch, I'm not building a bridge, but using your brain power, knowing that the consequences of doing something wrong may severely injure somebody, is draining. It uses a lot of energy.
Sure.
So I think we do have a lot of skill sets that are very transferable. But to go home after seeing 30 patients in clinic to sign some notes and then think about what else I can do, it's draining. And so I think there's a balance. It takes a lot of time and energy to do what we do, but we do have to carve out the time because you can't give 110% forever. And so you have to figure out how to scale. And how do you scale yourself? By building processes and then using people in that. And that's how you scale any business. So we have a lot of skill sets. We just have to figure out how to use them.
Yeah,
And I think we forget, you have a very good point so energy-wise, we forget that our brain, although is this little mass here of fatty tissue, we forget that little mass uses 25% of the energy that we have in our body. So this little thing here uses a lot more energy than our muscles combined. So that's why, like you said, when we're done with 20, 30 patients, we're drained. We feel like somebody just beat the heck out of us. But it's because we're using our brain, and it's a different type of stress. But it's a stress that not only carries a physical drain, but also an emotional drain.
Yeah.
How about you, Harvey? What do you think?
Yeah, I could speak firsthand. This was crazy to me. I remember working a full night shift, 2 hours away from Dallas, then getting up, like literally finishing my shift at 7 a.m, driving 2 hours, getting to Dallas, and then working on my emergency room business. And then I would just keep going. And I would literally go for, 24, 36 hours and then just get home, crash, sleep, and then rinse and repeat. And then having both my Dr. ER hat and doing that, and then having my business that I was starting, and then that took off. And then at one point I was just happy to give up that other job because I was like, I can't do both. So it is draining and emotional. And then we haven't talked about the emotional intelligence of all this, but the emotional drain that we go through, seeing someone die and suffer. I mean, that's hard to digest. It's not just simple, oh, that person died. No, it takes a toll on us. And then to be able to package that and then say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. It is. So to your point, Jennifer, you're right. The energy and emotional energy, all of it's exhausting. So it is that quite balance. How do you make sure we don't burn out, as a person as well?
Excellent. Right? Excellent point. You're right. Yeah. I think that part of death is very, very unique. Dealing with death, saying to somebody that their significant other will not survive. they call us for like brain death protocols and giving them, evaluating for brain death. And it is very taxing. I think it's important for us physicians to stay connected to our emotional well-being. It is important for us to manage our time, try to split our time as to the best. There's no perfect balance. But for example, for both of you, what do you do time-wise? I like to keep a journal. I try every Sunday to create a template of what I'm going to do in the week, and I put there time with my kids. It never flows like I put it, but at least it helps me have an idea, and be able to work on, for example, in the morning I do yoga, I do meditation. But has anything worked for you guys?
So for 2025, I'm trying to do better. So I am a list person. I like creating lists because I like crossing things off the list. And what I've learned is I need to treat myself first, because as a mother of 3, I'm married, I have a dog and a husband. A lot of times you give everything and then come to work and you're giving everything to your patients. And I realized one day, like, I can do it all, but not at the exact same time. And if I fall out, then there are a lot of eggs or balls that are going to just crash. Some of them are going to bounce because they're made of rubber, and some of them are going to actually break. And so my list, I basically triage by those that will actually break. And I make sure that my own well-being, whether it's exercise, whether it's just watching Netflix and eating ice cream one day just for my mental health to just calm down, I make sure those things actually happen. And the things that aren't as important, then they can go ahead on the list for the next day. But I think what we're all saying is there has to be a balance, and you have to figure out how to kind of regenerate yourself. Because Harvey, like, working 36 hours, like, that's insanity. And you just kept doing it until you said there has to be a better way. But you can't do that forever. You can do it for a short time, and then you have to move on to something else.
Yeah. For me personally, I try my best to listen to my body. I know that if I keep going, I get to a point where I'm like, I don't have the energy. And it's even exhausting to speak, to take on a stage and speak to 1,000 people. You can't go on stage and look like you're tired. You got to be energetic. If not, why would they want to listen to you? So even then, you can't take a break. And so I make sure that I remind myself, I spend a lot of time looking at my data analytics. I look at my watch, and sometimes I wake up and I look and I'm like, oh my God, I've only slept 5 hours. I'm like, you know what? Go back to sleep. That's not enough if I got such a long day. Next week, I have a big TEDx talk that I'm doing, and I know I need to get my hours of sleep because I know I can't be on stage. And this TEDx is at the end of the day. So I know by the end of the day, I'm usually exhausted. So I need to make sure that day I'm going to be ready and rested because I can't be on stage being recorded and whatnot. So my point is, you're your best marker of yourself, and don't push yourself to the point of, exhaustion, unless there's a goal for that. But I did that for a short season, and I knew I could not do that for the rest of my life. The other thing is, physically, I let myself go. I started gaining all this weight. I had never been that heavy in my life. And I thought, okay, this is not good. I'm putting myself up for a heart attack. I'm going to have a stroke. No matter what pills I'm taking, this is not healthy. So I made it a point to lose weight, and luckily I lost weight. I'm in a good weight right now. I still want to lose some more, but I know I'm now not at risk for XYZ, which is good. And that's some of the dangers. It goes back to balance. We want to be this entrepreneur. We want to do all these things. Something has to give, and don't neglect your family. A lot of times, I'm not going to pick on a specialty like surgery. I won't say those words, but there's some specialties out there that they're at high risk for divorce because they're not home. They're not spending time with their loved ones. They're on call. They're pushing the boundaries to the point where the family's like, you know what? And if I had to guess, I would think ER is that way too, because they're not there for holidays and weekends and nights and things, because the schedule of the ER is open 24/7. So it's important to make that balance.
I agree with that. I think one of the things I learned kind of through training and looking around, especially in academic medicine, it's like all of us will go one day from who's who to who's she or he, right? And the only people that are going to be there at the end of days is your family and those people who love you. So you have to make sure you prioritize people.
Excellent. And I'm going to ask you in a moment about some more specific recommendations and what each one of you did. But there's a brief, I want us to touch briefly on the mindset, so on what it takes, because we can have all the information, right? But it's not until we really believe that this is possible and we start taking steps towards it. What have both of you done, on kind of staying on track? Everything doesn't work out, things are not going to work out. We are going to have roadblocks, little and huge. But how does a physician stay on track with knowing that, hey, listen, I'm doing this as a physician, but there's more that I can do. Maybe I don't have to jump the ship and just do it fully, but just explore it mentally that yes, it is possible for me to, for example, for me, I do as a healthcare consultant. So I'm still a full-time, neurologist, but I do it on the side. And it's helped me gradually build up something that I really, really love.
I don't know, Harvey, do you want to take it first and then I'll?
Why don't you go first, ladies first, and then I'm sorry, and then I'll go. Then I'll take the next one first, but you go first.
Yeah, so there's always going to be roadblocks. And so I think about how my brain works and what else I want to do. I also realize that, and honestly, I ask myself, will anyone die? And if the answer is no, then you take the chance, right? Because there is no loss. You can lose money, you can lose a business, it doesn't matter. You're still alive. You can still put it back together again. There are people we all know that have lost everything and then completely rebuilt it because they had that inner drive. So I think for me, it's always the question of what else do I want to do? And not to make money or to put my name out there. It's just, what other tingles do I have in the back of my brain that I want to explore? Do I want to travel? Do I want to give talks internationally in other languages? And then I go backwards from there, because not everyone's going to have the same vision that you do, and you're not always going to have the resources. But I think an important thing, especially for clinicians, is our network is usually just healthcare. We really need to talk to a lot of people to figure out other networks, because that's how we branch out. That's how we fulfill our other needs, because everything that we need is not going to come from our circle. And everyone says, like, your network is your net worth. So spend some time doing other things, talking to other people outside of medicine, outside of healthcare altogether, outside of business altogether. And so you'll get a lot of different perspectives, and you'll also find out what else you like. And then when you do that, you'll have a lot more tools in your toolkit to break down any barrier, because you've seen other ways that things could work.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And Felix, rephrase the question, because I was answering one of those chats and then I lost it. So sorry, rephrase the question.
Mindset. So what role do you think our mindset plays in for a physician to be able to say, listen, I've been doing this for forever, and it might be possible for me to explore something beyond. Like they see AI, they see you talking, and they think, well, maybe Harvey was able to do it, but not me. What role do you think having the right mindset? Because I think that we can have all the tools in the world, but if we really don't work with this thing up here, thinking like I do meditation every day, I do visualizations. What do you think?
Yeah, I think mindset is everything. There's studies that show that optimistic CEOs will do better than the pessimistic CEOs, because it's this thing up here. Last night I was telling my kids, it's about putting it out to the universe. And I know people are like, oh, that's a little weird and funky, but no, it's all mindset. By you putting it out to the universe, like, I am going to do well. It's positive. I can do this. It does something to our brains. Before I take stage, I tell myself, I'm going to do great. I'm positive, and I put that into it. And then when I go on stage, I have that energy that transfers onto the stage. Same thing with this. If your mind is like, oh, I don't know about this endeavor, maybe I'm not going to do well, you're not going to do well. So on the pure side of the meditation, I agree 100% to taking time to self-reflect, to go into a silent moment. I personally resharpen the tool by going on walks. I love seeing the sunset. It's a thing. I love going to the beach. So every excuse I have, if I'm out in San Diego or somebody asks me to speak, I'm like, I take time off to go walk on the beach, just because I need that time to kind of clear my head, to see the day. Today, I was telling my business partner, we're on the phone. I'm like, hey, dude, it is beautiful outside. The wind is great. He lives a couple miles from me. And I said, dude, go for a walk. I don't care what you're doing. Trust me. You need to just recalibrate. You've been on your desk all day. Dude, just get out. Because I do believe it's that mental reset. The other thing on the mindset, I tell my, whenever we get into a conflict in any business deal that I'm talking with and stuff, I tell everybody, hey, let's take a time out. this is not going to be solved today. Everyone, let's sleep on this. Let's take a breather and let's come back tomorrow and let's look at it again. And I'm telling you that 9 out of 10 times it works because people had time to sleep on it, to meditate, to relax, and then come back, and now they're ready to discuss. And it's all about the mindset.
Fantastic. Thank you. You know, it's in order for us to be resourceful and creative, we need to be in the right mental state. A lot of times when we're frustrated and we're angry, what we don't realize is we block out all those connections in our brain that can help us solve that problem. Now, Jennifer, for physicians that are working in hospitals, you know, private practices, and they want to start taking small steps to begin exploring innovation leadership in those areas, what would you recommend them to do?
I think the first thing is to like name the problems, right? So why do we even have innovation? We have innovation because we need a new solution to a problem. So once you can start noticing where the problems are, now it's not the small problem of, hey, I can't use a syringe. It's, oh, syringes are only made X, Y, or Z way. Like you're trying to go and level up and figure out what the actual problem is versus what you perceive the problem is. And I think once you start recognizing and naming the problems, you're going to start looking throughout for solutions. And that's how you get involved with innovation, right? You're going to see, hey, this is a product or this is a solution. It hasn't been tried before in our world, but let's talk about it. And then you actually just reach out. I think we're used to a lot of incoming. Patients come to see us. We get referrals. This is more outgoing. This is now putting ourselves out there and saying, hey, can I have a call with you? Hey, can you do a demo? And I think once you understand truly what the ecosystem is, and the more you have conversations with people who are trying to build solutions, the more and more innovation will come to you. And you'll see different types of solutions. And what's important too is not every solution is going to be the right fit. And what everyone's talking about and they're trying to do is find the product market fit. So you really need to analyze the product, the solution, the software to figure out if it fits the global problem or just a small, minute part. Because I would say in running a practice, you don't have time for expensive error. And a lot of these products are going to be subscription models. That's the business model, right? That's how they continue to have generation of revenue. But if you choose poorly and you're in that contract, you're not going to be able to make up the revenue in a different way by just seeing more patients. We're all burnt out. You can only do so much. I think in a health system, that it's the same thing but amplified. Because if you choose poorly or don't fully vet a product or a solution, and then you scale it and there are problems, it's even more. And unfortunately, the more visible you are, the more visible the failures. So I think if you start by figuring out where are the problems, let's say with the real and like voice what the real problem is, start talking about the solutions, see what's available in the market, and if it's not there, create it.
Excellent.
Well said.
Harvey, how about you? For physicians that are curious about, let's say, consulting, product development, entrepreneurship, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah.
You know, like to get started.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, this is what's such a great space. All of us, I call it our clinical gestalt plus our creativity. That is what people want. It's talking to Jennifer and saying, hey, Jennifer, this is what's going on. And then her using her MD, her MBA, her clinical gestalt, and then on top of that, her creativity and saying, here, Harvey, this is how I would attack it. And then you ask me the same question and I'm going to do the same. But now here's the beauty. I'm going to tell everybody out there that's wanting to start to leverage, really lean into that skill because no one has that unique combination. And then my favorite phrase, and you guys are all going to laugh at this, is it's human plus AI. It's going to beat everybody out. It's that uniqueness that I just talked about plus AI, put it together, and now, bam, you got something that's crazy good. That's what's making me so successful. That's how I have almost 30 books out there. That's how I'm consulting world leaders and doing stuff. It's not anything that you don't have per se. I mean, look at the initials. Jennifer and I are the same thing on paper. MD, MBA, same person. The only difference is my particular expertise, my creativity, but we have the same initials. And so she could do the same thing I'm doing. I can do the same thing as her. It's just the difference is the mindset, where I want to go. And then this is what I really want to say. really follow your passion. Don't, like Jennifer said, don't follow the dollars, follow the passion. I'm really passionate about this scar and how it hurt people and like how I need to make a difference. So I'm using this scar to remind me like, hey, why am I doing this? It's not for money, it's to help people. And I know that sounds, oh yeah, no, it really is why I'm doing it.
Sure.
And why I'm so thinking outside the box. And that passion is translated to the point where countries are calling me like, hey, Harvey, we want to do that here. And again, it's not the dollars, it's the passion that's driving me.
And for example, for both of you have MBAs, right? I know when I first started this journey a couple of years ago, I was looking at whether to do an MBA. And my question to you is, one, do you think an MBA is needed for a doctor to look beyond, the clinical realm? And two, are there, different tips that you would give, for example, from networking or attending conferences, and you had said about the network, Jennifer, which I think it's a huge part of what we need to do that I really didn't realize up until some years ago.
Yeah, I would definitively say you do not need an MBA. You do not at all. I think we are all intelligent enough to figure out business. There is some risk involved, and you have to be willing to learn it on your own, but you do not need an MBA. What is an MBA helpful for? It's a structured way to learn about business. It's a structured way to think. And truly, if you go back to school to do an MBA at a different stage in your life after you've been out in the workforce, it's about building your network. And that's why people pay to do MBAs later in life. I think that if you go in with the mindset of, I want to learn about financial management, I want to know about economics, global economics, what's happening now with tariffs, can I really understand that? Then you're going to learn and to actually utilize that information. You're not going for a grade anymore. I think you're also going to meet people you would have never met in your normal social circles. People that are a lot more international, people who work for multinational firms, people who are in finance, maybe PE, maybe, economics, people who are physicians, but there's a lot more mix, people who are artists, a mix of people that you probably wouldn't have run into the same way. And I think that's why the alumni networks of these schools are so strong, is because if I ever have a question about anything, I know I can just send an email or a text or a WhatsApp, and I can open that entire network to find someone who knows the answer or maybe even has a solution to the problem. So it's not necessary to run a business, to start a business, to do innovation. But I also would say that if you're trying to break into a field that you don't have the expertise in, or you don't have something that's documented, it is helpful because people will at least say, well, I think this person has this baseline knowledge. If you don't have it, then you have to prove it. But I think walking in the door, if you have it, they'll take that credential as at least she has that baseline knowledge.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'll jump in. This is a great discussion. I talk about this all the time, and I'll just be blunt. The only reason I got my MBA is because I already had my street MBA, and I wanted to be on paper. Someone would be like, "Oh my God, this guy has an MD MBA," because unless they knew about me, they would just see Harvey MD, and in their mind, there'd be prejudice and say, "Oh, he's just a doctor. He that's all he can do." And I was like, well, damn it, I need those darn initials so that when I go into a room, they're like, whoa, this guy's a little special. He's got the MBA. Let me dig up the surface. And then when they dig the surface, they're like, holy cow, this guy started all these companies. Then it doesn't matter that I had the MBA because they already see it. And so not to self-promote, which I will, I just wrote a book on AI-powered street MBA, and it's a street MBA combined with AI and how to use AI and leverage to create your MBA, but it's the street MBA. So it's on Amazon right now. But but at the end of the day, I'm going to answer what Jennifer says. I don't think you need an MBA, even though we both have an MBA. I think at the end of the day, it's like I said, that hook. And then the second part, now, again, I'm AI crazed. I really think if you leverage these tools and you can really create, man, I am creating great business plans. I'm leveraging AI. I'm doing crazy psychology stuff. I'm adding my MD and emotional intelligence into some principles of AI. I'm creating my own RAG model. And then I'm creating business plans based on other business plans and then tweaking them to create new products. And I know I'm beating the competition. Like, I know it hands down. In fact, I'll share something that I'm only doing with VCs. I created a AI product that I can analyze any pitch, and then I can give you a 5-page report on how well that entrepreneur is doing. Are they doing a good hook? Are they not? And then I can create another report and see if they are really a good investment or not. And then it's all these clinical cases. So within seconds, I can take your pitch and stuff and then give it to the VC and be like, here's why it's a good investment and why not. That doesn't exist. And then that's my outside the box thinking.
Yeah, you found the problem. The problem is there were so many pitches that it took a long time to figure out what was good and bad. And so they basically used your business knowledge plus AI, which is business knowledge of multiples, and then you put it together. So strong work.
Exactly. You know, and that's what I think with, like you were saying, you identified a problem. We don't really realize that we're doing that every single day. We're analyzing problems. Somebody's talking to us and we're evaluating what the patient has, the physical findings, the history, how the wife is standing there, how the kid is jumping here, how he talks, how he walks. And then we're providing an analysis in minutes. And we forget that that's such a valuable big thing to be able to do, and we can apply that to business. It's just like Harvey, you were saying, we need to start understanding that we need to leverage different technologies. So right now, as things go on, it's like 20 years ago when the electronic medical records were coming out, right? Whoever didn't jump on the wagon got left off. They were left behind, because the fact is that they needed to get into electronic medical records, and it did make a big difference. It brought a lot of stress to us as well, because we needed to document more. Now it opens up the possibilities of leveraging technologies like AI and ambient language technologies that can help us, again, do our job better. Now, in that area, so with the pace of AI and digital health and other technologies and wearables, what role do you see physicians playing in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
Harvey, you can go first for this one.
Right? I thought Harvey's gonna jump out of the chair.
Yeah, here's the deal. AI in healthcare, bottom line, we need a human in the loop. This isn't just business, picking a stock. Like Jennifer said earlier, people die. If this thing gets done wrong, people will die. And from a math point of view, if it's 99% accurate, is it worth killing to 1%? No, we're not going to do that. So we need to have that human in the loop. And then will I lose my job? Well, the answer is maybe. And I call it the great shift. If I'm a dermatologist, I may now have the Podunk, Texas dermatologist, family medicine doctor not send me all this dermatology stuff, because guess what? They're using AI, they're solving it, they're figuring it out. Now, when I see a patient, it's going to be the strict dermatology patients. And so that's the great shift. Now, will I lose a job? Will I see less patients? Maybe not. Maybe I'm seeing more complicated patients. And so in the next 5 years, the next thing to be added to our physician assistants, nurses, doctors is going to be robots. We will have robots. Robots will be my assistant. If I have an aging population, my nurse is like, hey, Harvey, I'm out. My back's hurting. I can't be doing this. Guess what? I'm going to hire a robot for $25,000, $50,000. I'll pay for it. And now that robot's going to lift my patients, take my patients, do the ADLs. If I have a nursing home, be the robot that's walking around helping. And so the last thing I'll say, we can do a whole talk on it, is the vision of the AI. We'll be able to see that that's a pre-diabetic that just walked in, that walks and analyzes the gait and say, you know what, that person's actually early sign Parkinson's disease. It'll be a whole different healthcare. And if you watch my TEDx talks, I talk about them. So that's my future in 5 years.
Yeah, I think my 5 years, I wasn't thinking that far out, but I do think the technology is here. It's just trying to balance the technology with our morals, right? So we do have the capability for vision, right? We can use it for good to watch someone ambulate, to make recommendations. I think we do have rounding robots that are already available in different areas that no longer have the same support from physicians. But I think at the end of days, am I concerned that we're not going to have a job? No. Do I think that we're going to be upskilling a lot of the population? Yes. We have to teach them how to use AI. I think there's a lot of fear, because just as we said, like in the Rust Belt and in like near the Great Lakes, there were a lot of people who worked in those great jobs for factories. And so there's a generational thing where people are like, yeah, you had this factory job with the automotive company, and now they outsourced it, or they put everything on conveyor belts and I'm not needed. So there's a palpable fear, but that fear is part of what we need to correct. We need to actually talk to people and explain, this is not coming for your job. This is to augment, to help you do your job. It's the same thing with planes. All of our planes are high tech. We really don't need pilots to fly it, but are you getting on a plane without a pilot? I'm not. So I still want a physician or a person leading it and helping me through that journey, not because the technology or the AI can't do it or can't tell them the answer. It's because at the end of days, we're still people and we want that person-to-person contact. So human in the loop will always happen 5 years from now. What we'll be able to do with AI will be great as long as we continue to keep our morals and our regulations in check. I know you guys are paying attention to the EU Act and what's going on globally with AI and regulation. And last week, how the regulations, the new memos that came out from the Trump administration. We as the physicians, we as the clinicians need to be actively involved with advocacy, because if it doesn't happen, again, we can't just move fast and break things.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we need to get involved. As physicians, I think we've stayed on the sidelines for a long time because they trained us to think that we go there because we have our job and our job is to see patients and to get them well and da. Yes, that's still the job, but it's a lot more complex than that, because the fact is that if we don't get interested into regulations, if we don't learn these tools, if we don't upskill, then other people will make decisions for us. It's like doctors that complain that.
Oh, I think I lost you.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you. The AI gods are attacking you again, Felix.
They heard you.
Yeah, you got to start putting please in your prompts, buddy, and then you'll be okay.
Yeah,
No, you're back. You're back.
Don't say that. You scared me. I know, right? That's how some things happen. Now, I know. I was scrambling here to get everything ready, and my goodness, why does it happen now? But things happen. You got to deal with it in the moment. Any recommendations that you can make on how can somebody start looking into AI or learning about AI? About different technologies. It's not all about AI, right? Everybody's saying AI, but the fact is that there are a lot of tools that are working together, whether, it's cloud-based technology, Internet of Things. There's so many things that they're going to be optimized, I think, through the use of AI. We're going to be able to gather all this big data, humongous data lakes, and we're going to be able to make sense of it. It's like the Oura Ring that I use, right? I mean, it has tons of information coming in. The only way that I can actually digest it is because AI is behind digesting all that information and all this algorithm that they've created. So anything that you would recommend to doctors and clinicians out there, to start looking into AI or books or
I'll start the simple way, because Harvey has a lot of information out there. He's very, very visible and he teaches very well. Listen to any of his talks, but I would say that the simplest way is just go online, right? YouTube is your friend. There are so many beginner videos that you can watch just to explain what it means. I mean, it's all math, but just to talk about what the terms actually mean. And a lot of the companies just have free courses you can take. Like, this isn't for a grade, this is just to get a baseline understanding. But Harvey, do you want to kind of share what you've done for education?
Yeah. I started an AI forum. I just dropped it in the chat. Feel free to come. It's free. We have free courses. We got information. We're teaching people how to use agents. We did a pre-launch, and we're going to do a real launch here in about a month. And then with the goal is we're going to start having office hours of doctors. But then it's not just healthcare. We're going to have all the different verticals. At the end of the day, when I give presentation, I have this slide, and it's a picture of all these people in different verticals. Some are doing, some are thinkers, some are positive, some are negative. But it just kind of gives you an idea, kind of like when we all grew up learning, we need to read 2 newspapers, read a conservative, read a liberal, and then between the two, the truth is somewhere in the middle. I say the same thing. YouTube's your friend. Follow a bunch of people. Biasly, I'm going to say follow me, but then follow the opposite person of me. That way, somebody in the middle will be something that'll be more like your personality. But it's all about learning. Again, it goes back to my first point. It's life learning, and this thing is not going away. And the more you understand this data, the more you can manipulate it, the way you can know what questions to ask. If AI is coming to your hospital and you have no say, then you don't know anything. But if you know some of the basics and some of the principles, then I'm going to encourage you to be part of that committee, part of that information, so that That way that EMR with AI, X, Y, and Z is shoved down your throat. You can say, whoa, wait, no, this doesn't have X, Y, Z. Have you considered this? And then you can make that informed decision and be part of the decision process. So great information. Glad we did this. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any piece of advice that both of you can share, for physicians that are, trying to get started in this journey? Anything else that you haven't shared that you would like to share?
I would say reach out and ask questions. That's how you figure out where you belong in all of this, right? You want to figure out where we all have limited days left on this earth. You got to figure out where you're going to spend your time. And so the more questions you have and you ask, the more refined your questions will be and the closer you will get to like your purpose. So I would say raise your hand, volunteer at work to be that person on that committee, ask questions, expand your network, go on LinkedIn and connect with people, ask questions, meet up, have phone calls. That's how you figure it out, and that's how you get into this world.
Yeah. I'm going to say the analogy of, I know we only got 3 minutes. I taught myself how to ride a bike. I had a bike in New York City. I remember sitting on it through a whole winter. And then the first day of spring, I took that bad boy out and I started pedaling. I'm like, holy crap, I can ride a bike. And my point is this: use ChatGPT or whatever AI flavor sounds good. Check out 𝗲𝗆. There's a lot of free tools. You don't have to even spend money. And then just start riding the bike, start practicing. And then I'm going to encourage you to, before you ask ChatGPT, come up with an idea, come up with the answer, plug it into ChatGPT, ask it, and then use that thing that I just said, human plus AI, and see what comes out. And the more you're riding the bike, the more you start realizing, I don't need to use my hands anymore. I can ride this thing with my hands free. Same thing, just ride that bike.
Perfect. And I love both of your ideas. I've gained a lot through LinkedIn, reaching out to people. I've been able to reach out to, gain mentors, advisors, people that have helped me through this journey. And it has helped me immensely because I can learn from their experience. Now, before we close, because we're about to leave here, I want to invite all of the, the participants to explore the BioLabs HealthTech Innovation Fellowship, which we're going to be starting in May 10th. Now, this is an 8-week fellowship where we help physicians, clinicians, and people that are in the healthcare environment to be innovators. We help them develop practice skills in digital health, AI, innovation, product development. They work with real-world problems with global experts. They will learn how to pitch ideas, user design, user implementation, business model, regulatory strategy. Plus, the community right now is around 20,000 people or more. So you'll be joining, a big community that you can bounce ideas, you can learn from each other. And finally, I want to thank both. Both of you have done an amazing job. It's very exciting to me to be able to talk with physicians like both of you that enjoy this, that are reaching beyond, that are going beyond the comfort zone, right? That you have gotten out of that comfort box and be able to learn other skills and share with others. There's a quote that from Mark Twain that says the two most important days in life are the days when you're born and the days when you find out why. I think it's very important for all of us to learn, why we're here, and to be able to also just get out of our comfort zone and work together. Because the fact is that we need to work together to make this transformation in healthcare technology work. I mean, the only way that we're going to be able to make a bigger impact is for physicians, clinicians to come together and actually work together beyond discussing one pathology in this, to discuss as a whole society, because they need us. I do believe good things are coming, but we have to work together. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope to see everybody soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.